Hello, everybody. It's 5 o'clock here in Estonia on Friday, which means it's time for another AMA with yours truly, Kevin Mirko, CEO of CoinMetro. First, mic check. Let's get a mic check and make sure that everybody can hear me. Mic check, guys. Just let me know if you can hear me. I guess if you can't hear me, you can't really say that you can't hear me. So. Okay, I got one person. Sound is okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so we're going to jump right into this because usually I end up running my mouth and we go over time. So I'm going to jump right into the news of the day. That's our first topic, usually on these Fridays. So let's jump right into it. So the first little tidbit of news I have on my screen comes from Crypto Coin Spy, and its banking is facing its Uber moment. An industry that seemed impossible to disrupt gets disrupted. So inside the story, there's a bit of a tidbit of news or a bit of tidbit of information, I guess, that comments on the fact that blockchain is taking over. That banks are starting to actually adopt and use the technology. It goes on to talk about the different ways that banking is being disrupted by this technology, by cryptocurrency in general, by crypto assets, etc. I would say banking has started to be disrupted already from challenger banks when the e-money licensing came out in the EU almost a decade ago now, or actually over a decade, I think. And definitely over the past 2 or 3 years with companies like Revolut and N26 and other challenger banks within the EU. I think those, obviously, though, what we need to remember that underpinning all these challenger banks are regular banks. The SWIFT system, the SEPA system, controlled by regular banks. It's going to take a while for, just like, you could say Uber was a disruptor when it came to transportation. It definitely has been. But there's still taxis in almost every country of the world. There's still, planes, trains, and automobiles. People still drive their own cars, so these things tend to take a lot of time. Uber's been on the market now for quite some time, and it's going to take even more time for companies like that to fully disrupt, let's say, taxi services in general. But I would say, yeah, banking is definitely getting disrupted, but underpinning most of that disruption is still normal banking. We could even say that for our own business. From a crypto exchange standpoint, when you need fiat, you need banks. Whether you use challenger banks and payment institutions and e-money institutions, underpinning those institutions is usually banks. We used to have a saying in FX because everybody would ask who your liquidity providers are. Somebody would say, oh, market makers are bad. But at the end of the day, sorry about this, guys, underpinning all of those different companies or all of that different liquidity, let's say. Geez, this guy doesn't want to give up. Hold on one second. All right. Underpinning all of that is always liquidity from the same banks. So regardless of where you get your liquidity from, there's 5 banks that control 60% of the retail market in FX. So that's where the liquidity goes. That's where the orders go. So it's the same thing here. It's going to take a long time for true disruption to take place, but I think topically we're already disrupting, and we will continue to. So that's good. Number 2 on the list, which obviously has gotten a little fanfare, and I guess fanfare and people are getting a little dismayed and upset, and I guess it's got both sides here, is Facebook unbanning some crypto ads. I would say this was inevitable. I think we mentioned this in some AMA or Telegram definitely over the past months, that Facebook's already in enough hot water. They already have too many feet, fingers, and toes in the fire. They didn't want to completely ignite themselves, so they banned ICOs and banned crypto altogether, waiting for regulation, waiting for some guidelines, legal framework, whatever. That started to happen, so now they're opening the door a bit to regulated entities. Not really a big surprise. Having said that, though, there's pros and cons to both sides of this. Obviously, for us, as a pro, is an additional channel to advertise. Facebook has the largest reach at any social media on the web, basically, by far, so that's a good pro. Facebook ads can go viral, which lowers the cost of those ads, which is also a good thing for us. There's some cons, obviously, with the new policy. It means that other regulated exchanges will be able probably to get whitelisted. And it means that once there's established competitors who are more established in the market than we are, they will drive prices up, per-click prices, which will make it a little more difficult for us to maybe reach the audience we want to reach. One thing there, though, is that, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, there's a question on Reddit that kind of pertains to this a bit, but, you know, everybody goes after the same collective group right now, the same segment. That's the trader segment. There's probably only a few thousand actual crypto traders who do high volume that aren't just running some arbitrage bot or made money over the last couple of years because all they did was buy and thought they were traders and now they're getting killed. So there's a really small amount of traders in the market and everybody goes after them. That's their main segment. Almost every other exchange goes after those because obviously they trade more than anybody else. I'm not saying it's not a good market to go after. What I'm saying is that no one's, almost literally no one is going after newbies. And when you take a new client and you kind of push that client from being unexperienced into experienced into a trader or an investor, that life cycle then creates a retention model for you. You now have built-in retention. They only know about the market because of your platform. They're used to your platform. It stops them from going to other platforms that aren't the same as yours. So it actually, you build in a great retention plan right inside your business model. So anyway, I would say that it's mostly pro for Facebook, but I think it shouldn't have been unexpected. Anybody that was really kind of paying attention should have saw this coming. Maybe it happened faster than some people thought it would happen, but you know, it was bound to happen. They made a lot of money on crypto ads. Crypto ads are only going to increase in quantity over time. So obviously Facebook's business is selling data. Don't tell anybody, but that's Facebook's business, is to sell your data. And obviously they sell your data to advertisers, and advertisers that pay money, like crypto companies, they want to sell your data to. So they just didn't, again, they're already halfway on fire. They didn't want to be completely lit up in flames. So they had to wait for a little bit of legal framework to come into the picture, and it has. Another news that a lot of people might be talking about, Binance launches Fiat in Uganda. I'm a little embarrassed to say this, having been in the FX space for quite some time. I have no idea off the top of my head what the Ugandan currency is. No idea. I'm going to cheat a bit. I'm going to Google it real quick because I literally have no idea. It's probably like the Ugandanese dollar or something, but definitely not the dollar. But let's see if anybody pops it in before I find it. The shilling. The shilling. That's quite fitting, actually. So they now allow Uganda shillings. Binance does a lot of shillings, so I guess that's quite fitting, actually. It's almost comical to a certain extent. So, you know, good for Binance. They're breaking into new markets. That's great. Africa is actually a great market. There's an emerging middle class, and where there's an emerging middle class, there are gamblers and risk takers. And where there are gamblers and risk takers, there are traders. So hats off to them for breaking into a market. We're looking at Africa as well. So obviously, if I put on my competition, let's get back to reality hat, I would say that they're in Uganda with Fiat before anywhere else, because nowhere else will let them do it. That's why they had to launch Fiat in Uganda. But good for them. Good for the market overall. I hope those Ugandanese traders are happy and they're using their shillings and getting into crypto. So the shilling. You couldn't write it if you tried to think of a joke about a currency, you would never be able to think that up. It's nice. So next story, no big jumps in BTC price anymore because of futures trading. I'm pretty sure I commented on this one. I know I have. So I know a lot of people run under the impression that more liquidity means higher prices, but that's ridiculous. What happens with the future market? What happened with the future market was essentially that futures came in, a lot of people to short sell. One, you didn't have to own something to sell it, which obviously increases sell volumes. But outside of that, it's fake liquidity. It's synthetic liquidity because it's not underpinned by the underlying asset. Because you can buy a Bitcoin future without actually buying a Bitcoin, which means that the liquidity becomes expansive. So before we had a small amount of liquidity because the market was small, and heightening demand, right? So the price goes up. Simple market mechanics. Now you have expanding liquidity and not so much demand. So what happens? Stabilization, falling, stabilization. It's a good and a bad thing. So in the article, the writer, who I believe is a Japanese economist, or maybe he didn't write it, but he was quoted, basically talks about how yeah, the fact that futures came in stabilizes the market, kind of like just what I just said. But he goes on to say that he wouldn't expect any type of price rises in the near future. I agree. Again, you're talking about expansive liquidity, not underpinned to the underlying asset, and weakening demand. So in order for demand now to outpace supply, we need to have a lot more demand, which means we need to have a lot of adoption happen very, very quickly. And that's unfortunately not going to happen in the short term. So it's a good thing that we're starting to see price stabilization. The fact that we're seeing it at a lower price is not good if you bought Bitcoin at 12,000 or 15 or 20. But overall for the market, it's good. It means maturity. It means the market's starting to mature. And a mature market is better for everybody involved. So that's good. It's bad if you're a price speculator. It's bad if you were a trader who all you did was buy at any point and then just waited for it to go higher over a couple days or maybe a week. Your trading days are over, basically, unfortunately, at least for quite some time. But yeah, I agree with this article 100%. Anybody wants to check it out, it's at bitcoin.com. And yeah, no big jumps in BTC price anymore because of futures. Fully agree. It's basic market mechanics, so there's no genius behind this article. I think I've been saying this for months. And then the last article I want to talk about, Germany's Solaris Bank to serve blockchain and crypto companies, came out on Cointelegraph. We actually approached Solaris Bank back in May, before all this hubbub, and they never got back to us. So we actually trying to rekindle that to see where they stand. A lot of banks right now, especially smaller banks, well, I would say mostly all smaller banks, are very keen now to come out and say that they're blockchain, Bitcoin friendly or crypto friendly because, well, they need to be. And I know I talked about this before, but I'll give you an example of why this can be a bad thing. Latvia years ago, Czech Republic in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, these banks and these countries needed to build up capital. For capital reserves, because the capital requirements changed, because they needed more money, because fractional reserve ratios changed and they couldn't loan out the same amount of money. They needed more money on their books, period. And then to do that, what they do is they lower their risk standards. So they say, well, you know what? Before we weren't taking third-party funds, FX companies, crypto companies, whatever. Let's start to do that. So they start to take on these more riskier businesses, and they tell them, yeah, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. They onboard them. They take their capital. They sit on that capital. And about 6 months, a year, 18 months later, when they no longer need that capital on their books, they close accounts. And I'm not going to say that's what's happening here with Solaris Bank. I'm not pointing to them specifically. What I am saying is that a lot of these smaller banks, they just want the cap. They need the capital on the books for whatever reason. And when they don't need that capital on their books anymore, accounts get closed. And if you're a crypto exchange, for example, and you're like, oh yeah, Solaris Bank, these guys are awesome. We've been with them for 6 months or a year. Pricing is great. Or I don't want to stick them out. So X bank, Y bank, whatever. And you have one bank account then because you really trust this bank, you know. And then 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, whatever, down the line, they freeze your account and close it. And now business continuity is out the window. You can't process withdrawals. You get a bunch of FUD all over the media, and your business dies. So I wouldn't take too much credence to this news. It's good that banks are starting to look at crypto, but I'd rather see this come out from an HSBC, a Barclays, a whatever, that they were taking on crypto business because they don't need to. You know, when a company takes on business because they have to, that's not the best sign. When they take on business because they want to, it's a different story. So smaller banks need to. So not the biggest or the best news of the day, but we'll see how it. Well, you know, I want to see more of this. Obviously, I want to see more banks jump into the crypto area, the arena, the space, whatever ridiculous word you want to use after the word crypto to describe this industry. But you know, not spectacular news, but not bad news either. So okay, so updates. So I've been kind of burned here a few times about giving out dates, and unfortunately, a lot of times these dates don't play out because we're going through different levels of development on all angles. We're finding different reasons to make changes every time we go to release something, and unfortunately, we have kind of this Steve Jobs-esque idea, or I do at least, that there's a famous. I'm sure everybody's seen these movies, but even before the movies came out. There have been a few books about working with Steve Jobs out there, and there's a famous story about him that when he was creating one of the first renditions of the Mac, the desktop that I used to have, I had those I think in middle school. We used to play Doom on them, big floppy disks. When he was going through this, he literally shut down the project for months because the type font was wrong. And I'm not saying I'm that ridiculous, but there comes a point when you need when you as far as a product owner need to have confidence in your product. Now this is a beta run, so beta isn't as important. But what I've come to realize is that when you're releasing your beta publicly to visually, let's say, to thousands of people, and not only people that actually let's say are cheerleaders, but also people that are in negative Nancy's. I don't know if that's a saying, but it is now. Then you end up kind of creating a storm when maybe you didn't have to. So you balance that out between trying to push something out as fast as possible and then trying to push out something that you think is actually the right thing that you need to push out at that right time, and it becomes a bit of a fight. So what I tend to say, we sent out an email earlier today with 4 links, 4 different renditions of the GUI for the exchange. Not the finalized GUI, but 4 different renditions we've been working on. HTML is being processed on 2, basically combining a 2. One of those is very close to being released. The other one is about halfway to being released. The Go platform as well is going to the final HTML. I don't want to give a date right now. All I can tell you is that my weekend is going to be 24/7 online, red eye, falling asleep at the keyboard, and then seeing what happens. So I'm in communication, obviously, with our development team, and I don't want anybody to knock at the team, and everybody then starts telling, well, you should hire developers from wherever, or why do you have developers in this country? Like, stuff starts getting awkwardly racist for no reason. We actually have a great group of developers. Over time, look, when you form a new team, even if everybody on there was, the best developer of all time, there's a famous comic strip about developers, right? And of course, I'm not going to draw it because I can't draw worth of shit, unfortunately. But I used to be able to draw. I don't know what happened. But the famous comic strip basically has 2 developers. One developer makes a product, gives it to another guy, and the other developer gives him his product. And then they both look at each other's product and go, what is this? What is this mess? And that's how developers are. Even the best developers in the world, when they look at other best developers in the world, they think there's something wrong with it. It's like they always find. So when you bring really good developers together initially, it takes time for the team to kind of get a bit cohesive. And over time, we've actually created quite a cohesive team. I'm not saying we still don't have holes. There's always going to be the need for new people, fresh faces, fresh ideas. But I think we're over most of the humps in that area. We're finalizing also a deal right now to bring on a COO. Which will drastically reduce those speed bumps, because that'll be basically the direct liaison between development, marketing, and support. He'll be the guy that follows up and kind of pokes and prods everybody and then reports back to me and allows us both basically to finalize business strategy without me having to kind of wear 4 or 5 hats. So that's definitely gonna push us faster, which is great. I had a great call today. A little bit off topic here, but I had a great call today with an institutional liquidity provider from the FX space that's now providing beta testing, basically liquidity inside the crypto, deliverable liquidity, and custodial services. So these guys can actually provide basically depth, multiple layers of depth inside an order book, tight spreads. Execution is quite fast because it's based on FX execution rule sets over fixed, so it's milliseconds. It's not seconds. It's not 1.2 seconds or 900 milliseconds. It's actually sub 30 millisecond execution times. We've been dealing with fixed for years, so we know how to deal with it. We've already built it into the back end of the exchange. So that's actually, it was actually quite uplifting to me because I've spoke to a lot of liquidity providers, and wow, man. It's like it turns your brain into jello after you have some of these talks, unfortunately. So we have that going on. Banking, we're still kind of messing around with a bunch of different banks. Some feedback from some still waiting on feedback. Others in the second, third, or fourth or final stage of onboarding. No real updates yet on new currencies for onboarding once we go live in the beta, but USD and Euro Again, Euro is definitely completed. USD is just about completed, and I think it's going to get completed next week. And then we have also, well, we're also looking at possible onboarding for some other currencies. I'll be flying to Amsterdam 3 days next week. Actually flying there twice, one for 2 days and then coming back and going for one more day, which seems really ridiculous, but I have some things I need to get done here on a day in between, so couldn't miss those. But I'll be flying to Amsterdam. We'll be meeting with ING Bank, myself and my chief of compliance. We'll meet with ING Bank, ABN AMRO, and the regulators in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. So hopefully we get some good feedback and some good news coming out of those meetings as well. Both of those banks, by the way, publicly do not deal with crypto, but after seeing some of the documents that we've created for banking and regulatory partners, we got a meeting, and we got a meeting with the top blockchain official at ING and something similar at ABN. So some news on the banking front. There's lots of things going on, lots of small things. Obviously, everybody's concerned about the beta, and I know everybody wants this thing to happen now, and so do I. Obviously, I'd love if it happened before and not tomorrow or the next day. But every day I get more confident in where we stand. I look at the competitors we have. I see what they're focusing on, the market segment that they're focusing on. I don't see anybody yet coming out that has a palette or a menu of services like we do. I can see what we do every day here. I know the progress that we're making and the things we're trying to do. So yeah, it's only positive on my side, even though I know that outwardly people want to see this, want to really get their hands dirty in the beta, and it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Eventually I'll go back to announcing dates, but for this one I'm not going to announce a date. All I can tell you is that ASAP we will have iteration A, and then right after that iteration B, and then we're going to allow more people into the beta, and I hope to have that happen next week, but that's as far as I can go with that one, guys. I'm going to jump into Reddit. We're a little bit ahead schedule here, but we had I don't know why we're ahead of schedule, actually. Maybe I'm just moving too fast. I don't know, but I'm going to jump into Reddit. And first question, baby butt problem. I'm so sorry about that. Asking, what's Evan's role and why does he always come across as upset? Is he just not a people person? He's not listed on the website last I checked. Not trying to be mean, but every time he shows up in Telegram, he doesn't calm the masses. He stirs the pot. Not the best for the community. Okay, so Evan is actually one of the original shareholders, the majority shareholder actually, of the company. He came on almost 5 years ago now. It's been 5 years. It's insane. Almost 5 years ago now, when CoinMetro was initially like an idea in my head, and we actually started with the idea to make cloud mining before anybody did it. And then over time, that idea morphed into other things. Evan's a great guy. He gives great insight. I consider him a friend. He really knows. He has a knack for being able to kind of take complex things and dumb them down so that they're more easily palatable by everybody, so that work can kind of move faster. I don't know. I haven't seen all his interactions in Telegram, so maybe I can't comment. I know, it might be early in the morning. He's a pilot by trade, by the way, so his hours can be quite crazy. So maybe he just got off some type of red-eye flight and somebody said something in Telegram, and sometimes that's why I use voice messages, to be honest, because if I'm sarcastic in a voice message, you know it. If I'm trying to be, an asshole in a voice message, you know it. So I think that maybe it's just misconstrued. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But he would never ask anybody for any info. If somebody named Evan asked you for some personal information or something on Telegram, it wasn't Evan. So I think every single one of our employees has been kind of cloned by some type of scammer. So be on the lookout for that. No one would ever send you a direct message without you actually direct messaging them first. Just to see, I see somebody on YouTube asking how to report inappropriate behavior. Send it to me. Send me what they sent you. If it's on Telegram, DM me on Telegram. If it's an email, forward it to me. I'll make sure to see if it's legit or not, and if it is legit, I'll take appropriate action, and if it isn't, I'll make sure you know. But I would almost guarantee you 99.9% it's probably not one of our employees. So back on to the next question. Bruce Lee 707 says, "Hi Kevin, seems like there's some problems with comms and the dev team, or maybe problems with the dev team. Even the AB beta is delayed. While I don't disagree with CM should have a UI that is simple for novice and useful for experience, my current fear is that we have yet to test the back-end trading engine. If the UI is already giving much problems, I wonder how robust the trading engine is. Thanks for the great effort." So the two really don't correlate, to be honest. The trading engine, remember, at FXPIG, we've created and are running and have been running for years trade tech. And that includes matching engines, that includes aggregation, that includes a lot of more complex architecture that we don't even need yet for crypto. And it works every day, and it's working right now. We have not, at FXPIG, ever created a trading UI. We've created GUIs for fixed traders, which is a much more dumbed down, simplistic GUI. So what you're seeing now is us taking a very talented designer and trying to explain to him the nuances of trade tech. And that takes time, unfortunately. But, you know, and that doesn't say that we didn't look for someone. But when I found designers that had experience in trade tech. But the problem is that they design trade tech like every other piece of trade tech you see. There's a reason why when you go to every exchange looks the same. And it's not because it's the best way to make an exchange. It's because people assume, designers assume that's how an exchange should look, and they build exchanges around that design. That's why they all look the same. And it's not because it's the best route. And I always have an analogy, right? So here's an analogy for you on this one. For years, I owned a bar in Mexico, right? And every time there was a party or something, like a holiday, let's say, every one of these bars would blow up balloons and hang balloons outside the bar. And then they had these 2 or 3 songs every bar would play every night and dance to them. And it was the YMCA and Macho Man. Yes, I'm not kidding you. I'm talking about 1990, 2000. This is in 1970 something. And they all did it. And when I opened my bar, I said, why are we doing this? And they said, well, it works. People like to see this. They come in off the street. And I said, I don't think it works. Who wants to see a bunch of fat bartenders dance to the YMCA? This isn't something that works. So I didn't do it. And guess what? People still came in off the street. I didn't blow up balloons for drunk adults on Valentine's Day. But guess what? People still came in and drank. So there's a lot of businesses tend to see what other businesses do. And because those businesses look successful, they equate whatever they're doing to their success. So I purposely brought in somebody that I thought was a great designer that didn't have experience, because I want our GUI, our experience, to be not guided by other exchanges. I want it to be guided by what people actually want, and that's why this beta process, and that's why a more elongated beta process. So there is a delay on the trading engine. Literally, almost no delays on the trading engine. We've been building in new functionality as we've been working with the GUI and trying to make things work on that side. So there's really no correlation between if the GUI is delayed or whatever, then what's up with the trading engine. Two completely different teams, two completely different knowledge sets. When it comes to trade tech, you need people that know how to design trade tech. When it comes to the actual engine itself, why? Because if you had to explain what send order quantity and blah 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 is to someone that doesn't come into that is new to the market, you're gonna. We had a discussion with my CTO last night, and he said he was in a Socratic circle, I think is the Socratic circle. Basically, Socrates, how he used to teach people was it was kind of a back and forth. Like, how about like this? No, because if you do it like this, that means that you're missing this. Oh, what about like this? Oh no. It's basically teaching people by example, like coaching them through instead of just giving them a project and letting them do it. So yeah, I think there's definitely not a correlation there, and the engine is tight. And the only thing that we will see over while we do the beta is we're going to have to fine tune it to exactly how there is a difference between external liquidity aggregation, sub-millisecond execution, and a full-on matching engine, almost no external liquidity. So there's going to be some caveats there, but that tech is tried, tested, and proven for years. Down to the next question. Evolshi. Hi, Kevin. In your last AMA, you spoke about a more advanced version of the platform that you released to a small group of friends, acquaintances, and after their feedback, you decided to get back to the design phase and recreate it. Can you show us the more advanced version? I think you guys actually saw. I think you guys actually saw the mock-up initially. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you guys saw the initial trade mock-up. I think it's even in Telegram. I'll have a look to that and see what I can do over the weekend for you guys. Or well, later today probably. But yeah, we should still have those mock-ups, so I'll have a look. Bluebird 2018. Were the funds raised in the pre-ICO sale made and subsequent immediately converted to fiat? No, they were not. Which, whatever, hindsight being 2020, right? But no, they weren't. And the reason is that the token sale was done from Hong Kong. And, in order, we didn't have accounts in the Hong Kong entity because, unfortunately, it's quite difficult. You can lie to the bank and get accounts, but that really wasn't that's not my MO. That's not how I wanted to operate. When now we could have put those funds on an exchange, converted them to fiat and left it sitting on the exchange, but that raised the risk of that exchange then having issues and us not being able to pull out that fiat. We actually did that for a portion. We did. I can't say we didn't sell anything. We did convert a portion, and that particular exchange, we could never get the money out. We actually had to convert it back to crypto at one point and then move it out. So yeah, obviously we have less capital than we initially had, and we've had to adjust because of that. But that's business, right? And we have enough money, obviously, to take us through the next year, approximately. Actually, if we stay at our current size, much more than a year. If we grow at the rate we were looking to grow, then around a year. But capital is there if we need it. So we've been offered capital from a few fronts, and should we need it, it's there. So I'm not too worried about the capital, but yeah, obviously hindsight being 2020, if I were to do this again, I would have probably ran the ICO out of Estonia, got licensed first, and then moved, had that fiat gateway possibly aligned. Though what I can tell you is that even now, fiat gateways for ICO, unless you go through a third party and pay them a percentage, is still not the easiest thing to do. Exchange is one thing, ICO is another. It's a higher risk for banks. Well, they consider it a higher risk. To be honest, if it's run correctly, I don't really see the higher risk, but they consider it higher risk, which makes it harder to open those accounts. From Kesmet, is CoinMetro looking into using digital identification solutions? In Sweden, for example, each citizen can set up a unique digital ID connected to an app, and they can use it for online verification for banks, government services. It's easy to use and secure, and it would be great if CoinMetro could incorporate such solutions. That way you don't have to deal with usernames, passwords. For sure, as that technology emerges, I mean, Estonia has something very similar, with ID cards, mobile ID, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Some other countries here, Nordics and Baltics, do the same thing or something similar. So yes, I think we'll probably start with Estonia because we're here. And yeah, I would be interested to talk to any of these providers that provide any type of biometric or digital IDs to ease the process of onboarding, KYC, and to ease the process and more secure and make the process of logging in, I was going to say logging out, but logging in more secure. Actually logging out as well, because they can automatically log you out based on proximity, I assume, which is also a good thing. So yes, I'm interested in looking. I can't say that I've looked at the Swedish option. Can't say I've even knew it existed, to be honest. Well, actually, I didn't know it existed. We had a guy in the office the other day that had a chip in his arm. But yeah, I'm interested in it. So it is something that I would like to look to in the future. And Robin Timmerman, I was wondering where Robin was. I know. And Robin, if you listen, I know you had an issue with your 2FA, and I saw it, and I know it was being worked on. But let me know how that process is going. Send me a message. If you had to choose, would you rather have your user base consist of A, the 100 biggest traders, volume-wise, or B, 10 million very small traders? That's a bit of a loaded question, and I'll tell you why. If it was just, there's no other parameters involved in this question, and it's just, the 100 biggest traders or 10 million small ones, of course I'd take the 100 biggest traders. It'd be stupid to say otherwise. Your costs are lower. You're making the same amount of money and your costs are lower, you need less employees, and you only need to focus on one market segment. Easy. But if I give you a real world answer, because in the real world, every single exchange is going after the 100 largest traders by volume. Every single one is headhunting those guys. They're going after them. They're doing anything they can to get them. Now, on the other hand, those other 10 million guys, nobody's trying to get them. And out of those 10 million guys, there'll be at least another 100 high volume traders at some point. And if you're the platform they learn on and you're the platform they use initially, then you retain that client. And that client becomes not only a cheerleader, but a revenue generator. So for long-term business, I would say B. Now, in the real world, A and B, because we will go after both. But I don't see all these, I see a lot of pretty GUIs coming out for trading infrastructure, but they're all going after A. And there's not a lot of A. I mean, again, there's a few thousand of those guys worldwide. And most of them are probably going to stick where they are unless the pricing is so much better that tech is just astronomically better, or they just feel more secure. Maybe there's other fiat options, maybe there's some custodial options, whatever. At some point, though, in the market, everybody's going to have these better options. Because I guarantee you, MetaTrader or CTrader or one of these retail-style platforms for FX, there's going to be a platform that comes out that caters to crypto that everybody's going to end up using. It will happen. And when that happens, all exchanges will offer it alongside their own platform or only that platform. And so what will happen is that at the end of the day, in a couple of years, everybody will, just like in FX, everybody's going to offer the same stuff. So what happens then is if over those 2 or 3 or 4 years it takes for that to happen, you bring in the newbies, you train the newbies become actual trading clients, they stay with you. Because everybody else has the same stuff anyway, but now they have, your brand is now instilled in their story. Because when they say, man, how did you become a crypto trader? They go, bro, back in 2018, I found these people CoinMetro, and I got an account, and blah, 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 and their CEO did a bunch of AMAs, and he trolled me a bit on Telegram, and that's it. Then that's it. That becomes your retention tool. So I think, to be honest, our approach is the best approach. That's why I took it, right? Because I think it's the best. But yeah, topically, if you have to answer that question, just like, everything else doesn't matter, it's A, obviously. But hopefully that answers your question, Rob. So let's jump into the Facebook and YouTube here for our Ask Me Anything. I'm going to jump on Facebook first. I see something here that I can't scroll for some reason. So all I can see is energy required to mine cryptocurrencies. Doesn't this rule out cryptocurrencies as a real alternative to fiat? Unless someone figures out how to mint currencies with much less energy, it can really be a real contender, can it? Well, do you know the amount of energy it takes to mine gold or silver or copper or cobalt or the minerals that are used to make the screen on your iPhone? Massive amounts of energy, massive amounts of waste, massive amounts. So what I would say is that, first of all, Bitcoin requires a massive amount of energy, for sure. But Bitcoin isn't a currency. And people that assume it's a currency, maybe at first when Satoshi, wrote his 9-page white paper, he envisioned it to be a currency. But I can tell you now, it's not a currency. It's a stored value. It's some type of asset. So over time, as prices stabilize and maybe stabilize lower, the institutional miners won't really have a reason to mine. Power consumption will go down. There's a lot of things that can happen, right? But the point is that Bitcoin requires a lot of power, for sure, but it's a stored value. So, the fact that it requires power means that it needs to be worth more money for those people to benefit, which means that they're going to hold. They're going to buy. They're going to do things with their holdings to make sure that prices stabilize, etc. And if larger corporations get into mining, if banks were to get into mining, for example, then that would probably mean price stabilization and higher prices. But Bitcoin is just Bitcoin. Now, as these new blockchains evolve, as the technology evolves, you're moving away from that high energy need into into different types of protocols, and those protocols don't require the same amount of energy. And eventually, I think we get to a protocol that can become a currency. We don't have that yet. We have protocols for these smart contracts. We have protocols for business cases. We have protocols for private and public blockchains. We have protocols for stored value. We don't have a protocol for currency yet, but I think it'll come. So yeah, Bitcoin's not a currency. If it was, Bitcoin's either a currency or it fails, it fails. There's no question. But there is many other answers to that question of what Bitcoin is. So I think this paper that was written that said, you know, Bitcoin, blah, 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 so much energy, the world would implode or whatever nonsense, I think is a bit far-fetched. It's far-fetched because it's like saying if there happened to be gold under every inch of dirt throughout the entire world, what would happen? You know, everybody started digging for gold or whatever. The point is that as the difficulty rises, if the price doesn't rise, the difficulty falls because the mining slows. So at the end of the day, Bitcoin wasn't meant, I don't think it was ever meant to become a replacement for fiat currency. Why? There's only 21 million minted. Eventually, I'm sure Satoshi, he wasn't an idiot, assumed that the price per Bitcoin was going to be much, 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 much higher because there's a limited supply. And the fact that it goes so high also means that it can't really be dealt with so easily as a base currency. So I hope that answers your question. I can see a message from Robin on Facebook. Wrote you a short message on Telegram about 2FA. I wrote another short question on Reddit, which you missed. I'm reporting it here. Can you give a rough ETA on CM Academy? Sure. The Academy, so our chief content guy was on vacation. He's coming back next week. Part of his task will be, and we have a copywriter coming on as well, and an SEO guy coming on all next week. So once they're in, part of their job will be to start to create the bullet points and frameworks for the Academy. And then I'm going to start recording some of them. I'm not going to record all of them. The initial ones I'll record. Time permitting, I would love to record them all, but I don't think it's going to be possible. But I'll take those frameworks and I'll create basically some live videos, and then our designers will create some content around those live videos. So I would expect probably August is when we'll start to get out the first maybe 1 or 2 renditions, and then maybe towards the fall is when we'll start to see a few more. We're gonna do them as fast as we possibly can for sure, because I think it's a unique concept. Not unique per se, but in this industry, it's unique. I see from YouTube, what's the status of the prepaid card? So we're still negotiating between 2 different suppliers. We're going through KYC compliance and onboarding with both at this time. We're leaning towards one. I won't give you their name yet, but it's moving, and it's moving at the speed it needs to move to be completed on time. Any decision made on the potential flash sale? Not yet. No decision on the flash sale yet. Next question below that on Facebook: with all liquidity relationships CM is building, are OTC trading desk services a possibility in the future? I know there's this big, I don't know, buzz around OTC right now. But I mean, there really isn't much difference between OTC and just trading on an exchange. The only difference is it's like a dark pool, because that exchange doesn't touch the underlying market, so it doesn't move the price. So I think the OTC market will just end up being forced or pushed into more of a dark pool style trading environment, where yes, that means CoinMetro would have access to some dark pool liquidity over fix, and then we would be able to handle those type of larger orders outside of the market so that they don't affect market price. From YouTube, Camo World, looks like you can scroll to repeat. It sounds like the team isn't following the agile practices for development using a more waterfall approach. Why is this true? No, it's not true. Waterfall, as I guess you know, is develop, test, and then release, right? I think testing might be a bit longer in waterfall. And with agile, it's develop, test, release, develop, test, release. And then with, which I think is called DevOps, is develop, release, develop, release, develop, release, develop, release, develop, release. So no, what has happened, really, to be 100% honest with you, is that we have, our CTO has been delegating down towards our UI UX team, and he leaves instructions, detailed instructions, but maybe not as detailed as they need to be. And then so what happens is that our CTO assumes that the UI UX guys are going to infer what he's saying a certain way, and they infer it another way. So instead of giving an animation, they do CSS work, or instead of focusing on a widget, they work on a button. And I'm dumbing this down a bit, but just so you get the idea. So this is something that I've been actively trying to work on, that I've been talking to our CTO about, that I've been dealing with as far as our UI and UX team as well. So again, when you have a new team together, and I know they're not that new anymore, but it's still relatively new, it takes time for everybody to understand the nuances of everybody else. So I think we are working, I wouldn't say we're working with an Agile or a DevOps or a Waterfall. We have some type of hybrid right now. The goal is to get into more DevOps, so that once we get to the point where we have a stabilized base, we can release, and the testing basically will happen with the release. Now, obviously on a production version, that changes a bit. It just means that on the demo side, on the paper trading side, we would release these multiple releases, and that would be the test, and then we would release online. Yeah, it's a process, and I'm one for letting processes run their course and making sure that in the end you find the best one. Well, Camo, send me the contact. Look, we're looking for people on all angles, including development. Not necessarily when it comes to Agile development, but yeah, send us their details. We'll reach out for sure. I see in Facebook, I can't see the name, but did you come up with the name CoinMetro, and why CoinMetro? Do you know, or is CoinMetro planning to invest in trains in the future? So yeah, I came up with the name. I have a bit unorthodox way of branding. I own FX Pig, so I guess that's kind of self-explanatory from that point. But I came up with the name. Why the name? Well, coin, obviously, from just, everybody knows what, not everybody, but let's say most people that know about crypto, most people that ever heard of crypto know what Bitcoin is. They associate the coin now, even though they're not all coins, and most people say altcoins for tokens and alts and all these, which really starts to upset me at a certain level, right? Or call altcoins coins, or tokens coins, or alt tokens whatever. I mean, it gets a little ridiculous. So coin came from that, and then I wanted something that signified kind of speed, something that was on time, reliable, something that had a course and stuck to the course, etc. So I came up with train, and worked a bit with some visuals, found something I liked, and that's how CoinMetro. That's how. And will we work with trains? Directly with, that wasn't ever in my mind when I came up with the logo or the name. But what I can say is that we do want to delve into merchant accounts, processing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So one day, yeah, maybe one day we will be integrated to some subway or ticketing platform. I don't know, metro platform, and it would be cool. Maybe we can do that here in Estonia on the trams. People can buy tram cards with cryptocurrency through CoinMetro, and then get on the tram or something like that. So yeah, I think in the future, indirectly, yeah, for sure, we probably will have something. But that definitely wasn't the reason for the name. Again, back on Facebook, CM posted a general article, 10 biggest mistakes on crypto on Reddit. Instead of sparking a serious discussion, it just attracted some potty mouth fudders. Are you worried about this? It gives the perception that CM's image in the crypto space is not very positive. All right, I'm going to give you a hard answer on this one. Please take, now I'm an open guy, I'm transparent. No, I don't think anybody can fault me for that. So I'm going to be 100% transparent on this. It's like, I'm going to act like I'm talking to a buddy right now, right? We're not talking to you guys on this. I'm going to put on my commercial CEO hat, okay? Forget about crypto for a second. When we went through the token sale, the crypto community is a very important piece of the token sale, because the token sale pretty much, the vast majority of token sale contributors are already in the crypto space, meaning that you need to tread lightly, and you need to make sure that you have a certain level of image when it comes to the crypto space in general, which is a rather small space, or a rather small industry as a whole. minutely small when compared to almost any other industry, even in the financial space, right? So now, however, if we have to only look to cater to the crypto space, we're trying to cater to less than 1% of the population. So the importance starts to come away from the crypto space and go on to everybody else. And that may cause, look, people will always waste their day to say something negative, almost never waste their day to say something positive. I think there's a lot of positivity in the community we've created on Telegram and on Facebook and on all our social media. There's a lot of positiveness. That's not to say there isn't, people that just want to ruin somebody else's day. Unfortunately, that's human nature. Does it worry me? Not in the slightest. I'm not saying I don't care about the crypto community. Obviously, that would be ridiculous to say. I most certainly do. There are people in the crypto community I respect, and and obviously we don't want to alienate ourselves. But if we make the mistake of just trying to make that specific, very small segment of the population happy, we are alienating ourselves to the much larger market, which is a mistake. Which is a mistake I think the vast majority of crypto companies do. In an ICO, token sale, different story. When you're actually running a business, completely different. So, again, on Facebook, is the TAM, ETCF, prepaid card, etc. on schedule? Look, TAM, everything, the core, the exchange, and the trading platform are the core of everything. TAM is built off of the trading interface. ETCF is built off the exchange interface. So they're only GUIs, essentially. All the other, there's a few, I can't say they're only GUIs, but they're 90% GUIs and design related. So yes, the delays that we've seen on the exchange overtly, for the most part, are not affecting anything else. Why not token train, since you get upset with the word coin being abused? Well, to be honest, that's token train, I don't know. To be honest, when I hear the word token, I think of South Park. Maybe I'm completely a weirdo about that, but I don't know. But yeah, maybe if I did it today, it might be token train. I don't know. But I think still, at least a large amount of the population, Bitcoin is still more relevant to most people than token. And people know what a coin is. Not that they don't know what a token is, but tokens in the real world, unless you're a gamer, are like, arcade tokens, or, there's not so many real world uses if you're not a gamer or not digitally inclined, right? But coin is a coin. People know what coin means. Money. It means, they get it. Okay. I think Metro is better than train as well. Metro obviously has a dual meaning. It means the city. It can mean city. It can mean kind of city-like. Anyway, I think CoinMetro. Well, it's here to stay now, so we're not changing it. But I think it was. I still think it's a good name. Obviously, I guess. All right, guys. Any other questions? We're closing in on an hour. Normally we go over, but CM versus Binance, strengths and weaknesses from Facebook. Okay, so I think some of the most important strengths and weaknesses, right? Strengths. I'll start with Binance. I'll be nice. Strengths on Binance side. They started first. Strength. Market size right now. Strength. Let's say their reach, so people know them. The fact that people, when you say Binance, more people know what Binance is than what CoinMetro is, at least right now. So I think, to be honest, they list a lot of tokens. That can be considered a strength or a weakness, to be honest, depending on, I don't know why I can't, there we go, 4. And then anything else? Let me think. Binance. That's it. Weaknesses on Binance side compared to what we're doing. I think Binance helps us in a way that we can see the mistakes they made, and a lot of those mistakes are on regulatory and banking on things you shouldn't say on Twitter. And I think we can capitalize on that. I think the fact that we're building a robust base of a regulatory and banking base is going to serve us for years and years and years to come, and will be the fall of a lot of companies. Maybe not Binance, but many companies will falter and have huge issues because they didn't do that first. They created a revenue-generating machine and no foundation. So eventually that big revenue-generating bubble starts to roll down the hill because nothing's sticking it to the ground. I think that's a big strength on our side. The fact that we have a multifaceted platform that doesn't just attract traders, it doesn't just attract people who already know how to trade or know what token they want to trade. It's going to attract communities. It's going to attract people looking to trade for the first time. It'll attract people that want to learn about the market. It's going to attract people that just want to exchange easily. It's going to attract traders. It's going to attract people that don't want to trade, don't necessarily want to exchange, but want to invest some money in maybe some tokens or perhaps in some type of managed account because they just want to be able to reap a little bit of the benefits. So Fiat, and that comes from the banking base. And yeah, they're Fiat in Uganda, which again, awesome. But there's a reason they don't think they launched Fiat in Uganda because it was the best option for Fiat onboarding. And I'm sure that if I was Binance and maybe I would come out and say something like, we wanted to start here as a market test, and then but the real reason is that they just can't get client fund Fiat accounts anywhere else yet. And they may not ever be able to, depending on what their books and their back end and their corporate structure look like. So yeah, I think our key strength is that foundation, I think. And then on top of that, the fact that we're looking to build something that's all-encompassing and not just focusing on one small, if not lucrative now, but one small segment. And being compliant is a big plus in the financial space. And I can tell you from FXP, from personal experience, if I could do it all over again, I probably would have raised funds and put my broker in the US from day one. And we'd be 1,000 times bigger than we are. And I made the mistake of not doing that. I went the Binance route initially. And what happens is you can have some initial success, sure. But what happens is as regulations come out, to play catch up with a regulator is almost impossible. Especially when all the other big boys are given tickets into the playroom at that point. All for Facebook. Kevin, another post off Reddit you missed. How can you promise us an exchange in the next few weeks if you haven't even coded a UI yet? This is a joke. Another lie. Oh, our lying friend. That you would be ready. That you would just be honest and say that there has been zero development and wasted a whole month on UI mockups. Honestly, this project is failing, and it's because the CEO cannot take any responsibility and admit that he sucks as a CEO at meeting deadlines. All right. Well, I guess everybody's entitled to their opinion. Coded a UI. Coding a UI to HTML takes about a day or two, and that has definitely not been the reason for the slowdown. The reason has been multifaceted. And I guess what I would say to that is the only way to learn and to move forward in life is to fail, unfortunately. Little failures actually produce big successes, right? If you focus on making sure that, again, that you're just hitting deadlines for the sake of hitting deadlines, that's not going to give you success in the end. And, everybody can armchair quarterback all they want. Sitting at home in front of their computer and I like that you posted it. Look, the responsibility is mine for sure. I take full responsibility for delays. I'm the CEO. That's what I do. But again, I'm going to take full responsibility when we hit a home run too. So be ready for that one. Whoever posted this, be ready to come back and kind of bow down to the greatness once we get going and move live. But I take full responsibility. That's my job. So I have no problem with that. I don't know. I think a lot of people focus on what in their eyes hasn't been done, but they don't focus on what we have done. And what we have done, we've done more on the regulatory compliance side and structured more than most of every other large exchange. And we're 6 months old. I think we've done more on the let's say creation of different avenues to actually generate revenue on our system rather than just an exchange. Look, when you pull the wash trading out of all these other exchanges, their incomes, their volumes are so much lower than they're projecting. The amount of money that people think these exchanges make based on trading volumes is completely inaccurate. And I don't think people realize that. And it all comes again from not creating the right foundation, and that's setting up things correctly. So I'll take the berating now. I actually expected a bit more. I know you guys can't see everything, and it's impossible for me to walk around with a camera all day long to show you everything we do. But there's a lot going on. We're not just sitting here twiddling our thumbs, all day long, staring at the wall. And there's a lot of things that need to be done. And this is in multiple countries and multiple regions around the world. It's not an easy job. And at the end of the day, it takes time to mold everything together. So, feel so sorry for the guy that thinks I suck. Okay, we'll see in 6 months from now. Maybe his tune changes. In a bear market, no question there. In a bear market from Facebook, where will new money volume come from and when, in your opinion? Well, I think you're correlating a bear market to a slowdown in actual volumes, but that's not that correlation doesn't exist. I would say in a bear market, less people sell that were holding, maybe, at least the people that hold for long term. But I wouldn't even, to be honest, we're not in a bear market. I mean, the definition of a bear market can't be the same for crypto that it is, let's say, for equities. When you go, what is it, a 10%? 10% is a correction. I think 20%, 25 is a bear, 30%. I don't even think we're in a bear market, to be honest. I mean, 2018 is probably going to be a losing year, but we're still relatively in a positive market when you look at the last 5 years. There's no way you can call this a bear run. I'd call it a bear correction or some type of market correction, but people are still interested in coming to crypto. I think even lower prices, stabilization. What stabilization of pricing does, whether it's lower, higher, wherever it is it gives confidence to institutional players to come into the market. And institutional players bring way more money, bring way more volume. Not a lot of it's synthetic, but they bring way more volume. Way more volume brings way more news. Way more news brings way more newbies. Way more newbies brings more volume. So honestly, I think that the stabilization of pricing, even at a lower level, is actually maybe not right now, but over time will be pushing the market to expand. So where do you get new users? Well, again, if we're just focusing on headhunting traders from other exchanges, we're gonna have a long road ahead of us initially, because that's not easy. Even if you have a better price, even if your technology is better, sometimes it's hard to pull people off a platform. That's for sure. Plus, it costs money, and that type of marketing can be expensive. But when you have an academy, when you're looking for new people, when you're specifically going after people that have never been in the market yet, that may have heard about it on CNN, CNBC, that you go out and you're able to advertise on Facebook because you're not banned. That you're able to go out and through news blogs and through different types of growth hacking to bring people indirectly into your website that are looking for what is a Bitcoin, how do I trade a Bitcoin, what is a token, what is tokenization, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I think everyday marketing for this type of business gets easier, not harder. They may restrict us, but the scope, the market reach is getting larger. More people know about crypto, which makes it easier to actually reach them. And it just you have to find the right channels. But there's a lot of channels to reach people nowadays. It's actually made it much easier than it used to be. You're not just focused on TV, radio, and print. There's many more avenues. By the way, nice Uncle Sam photo. Yeah, it's actually me. It's a meme. It's my Kevin meme wall there. Tyler Moss. What? Sorry, from Facebook. I see Tyler Moss. It was made on our unofficial Discord channel. Hit me up on Telegram for an invite. Oh, that was that's the meme. Okay, cool. I'm sorry, I can't. Let me see if I can scroll on this YouTube comment. No, I see rented a top-tier office at the capital of the e-governance of the world just to play stupid. I think that's us, right? If that's a comment for us, we are right above the residency offices. But if somebody could repost that, that would be great. And I can't. Let me see. I'm going to open up YouTube so maybe I can see these, because these last two questions I think need to be answered, but I can't see them. So give me a second. I'm going to open up YouTube. Maybe I can see them here easier. Bear with me, guys. So, okay. Okay, so now I'm on YouTube. Let me get some of these. Okay, so from Antatupi, I've been disappointed for a day about the delays, but it's understandable. I just sit back and watch how the building is done. Okay, Camel World. U.S. investors still part of airdrop family and get lifetime play form discount even if we don't keep XCM, or would it be all for nothing? If you contributed to the token sale, you get the lifetime discount regardless if you keep your XCM or not. Airdrop family, if you have no XCM, you simply wouldn't get airdrop tokens because it's going to be based on the amount of XCM you hold. That will be based on that. So if you hold a minimum amount of XCM, you're going to get a minimal percentage of those airdrops. It's really the only way to make it fair across all the airdrop family, because if not, you'd have people that literally never bought an XCM that were getting the same amount as somebody who held 10 million, and that wouldn't be fair. Okay, guys. Let me know if there's an extra question floating around. I got to go back to being a sucky CEO, twiddling my thumbs and staring at the wall. And the weekend's coming up, so there's going to be a lot of staring at the wall, because it's the weekend. What else would I do? So I need to get back to that. This wall needs a lot of staring behind me. So, okay, here's a question. So from Chris, what is the minimum fiat you can deposit? Good question, Chris. Can't say that we fully define that, but we're going to try to keep it as low as possible. Well, let's put it this way. For at least initially, I think we're going to the lowest price. We'll have Ripple will probably be on us on our exchange initially, so that'll be the lowest price. So obviously, 18 decimal points out on Ripple or whatever is pretty much nothing. So I don't know. I guess from that standpoint, it depends on how you're going to deposit. Because if you're depositing, let's say via SEPA transfer, I guess it could be €1. No real cost involved for you, no real cost involved for us for the most part. So there's that. But if you're depositing, let's say USD SwiftWire, even if we don't set a minimum, I would say it would have to be like 100 or 150, 200, because with the cost that it's going to cost you to send the wire, the cost that it'll cost they'll take from us to receive it, etc. So I don't know if we'll set any explicit limits, but we'll probably give guidelines, just so that people know more or less what the fees they're going to encounter. Let's make crypto great again from Facebook. Any partnerships in the pipeline? Yeah, I think there's a bunch of partnerships in the pipeline possible. A lot of them from a service perspective, something like Dow Jones chain analysis that we have, some things like that for onboarding for different things to streamline processes, etc. When it comes to tokens and token marketplaces, yeah, a lot of partnerships are kind of in the works in the let's say verbal communication phase. I want to partner with like-minded companies, because at the end of the day, when you partner with great people, you get great results. So nothing really concrete to announce, but as we start, actually releasing our product, which may take a little while longer because I'm the worst CEO in the world. I don't know if you read that comment, but as we get closer to those launches, then we'll actually start to actively push out. Which one thing you don't want to do is to actively pursue a partnership that you can't immediately start to actually use. So if we make a partnership, let's say with something for the ICO Express, and then that provider or partner has to wait 4 or 5 months, 3, 4, 5 months to be able to actually see some movement on our side, that's not a good thing. So there will be PayPal integration. I'm pretty sure PayPal doesn't work with crypto. Skrill, however, more than likely, yes. PayPal is pretty bad when it comes to the fact, any system that allows chargebacks and then sides with the buyer almost all the time is dangerous for a business, especially a financial business. Because if you come and buy a Bitcoin trade Bitcoin USD and you lose all your money, and I didn't make all that money. I made 0.1%. So you bought one Bitcoin. Let's give the worst scenario, right? You buy one Bitcoin at 5,000 euro, and then the next day it goes to €0. I made nothing off of that, except 0.1%. So I made €5, and now I'm on the hook to PayPal for 5,000. So definitely not the best business decision. So probably not. And I don't think they're crypto friendly anyway. Withdrawals, minimum, maximum, be the same thing. I mean, look, if you want to make a withdrawal for SwiftWire for €30, we'll send it. You might only get €5 once your bank takes out their fees, but we'll send the €30. I think more or less we're going to have guidelines. I don't think we're going to set any minimums, at least initially. We'll have to see how the flow goes, and then we'll make rule sets based on that. So initially, probably no set minimums. Yeah, I already answered the prepaid card. So we're in negotiations with 2 companies. We're going through the onboarding, KYC, AML process with 2 different providers. Shortly, we'll make a decision. I'm leaning towards one side, but everything is in process to be on time. Estonian resident, paperwork is in for Estonian residency. I was a little late, so I had to get a visa first. So I have a visa, D visa here for a year, and paperwork for residency is in as of, I think, 2 weeks ago. But still an E-resident, obviously, until then, and a current legal long stay visa holder. But residency will come. It takes about 2 to 3 months. So usually 2 months, unless they need some more documents from you. So probably September, approximately. Okay, guys, it's 6:11, so I'm gonna tie it in. Thanks everybody for stopping by. Thanks, Robin, for posting those extra comments from Reddit. I didn't get those aggregated to me. Don't think that I saw that and then didn't answer it, because I would have answered it. I love answering those questions. But it wasn't aggregated in my little cheat sheet that I had. So anyway, guys, I'll see you guys next week. I'm going to be doing everything I can to push this beta into motion. And as soon as we have something, obviously, you guys are going to have a look at it. Thanks again. Thanks for the support. Thanks for you guys that came on to spread a little negativity. That's always good. Negativity is what pushes us to do better. So I have no problem with that. And have a good weekend, guys. Spend time with your family. That's the most important thing. I know all the young guys are probably rolling their eyes right now. I was young once too. I used to roll my eyes at that stupid comment. But it's the truth. Spend time with your family, because when they're not there anymore, it sucks. Yeah, we'll talk again next week, and I'll see you guys on Telegram probably a little bit over this weekend. Hopefully I'll have some good news, and if not, I'll try to pop in during the week. See you guys. Thanks again.